Alrighty, welcome everyone. Welcome everyone who's watching. I'm with Ramsey Malas, my partner, and Jeff Kroll on today's discussion about the top three limiting beliefs that insurance, financial, and lending advisors have in their practice and in their business on the day to day. Gentlemen, please introduce yourselves for the people watching.
Yeah, I'll go first. Former financial planner and current director and founder of Lux Sales Consulting. And yeah, we're on a mission here to help financial service professionals have a more predictable sales process, help them add 11 to 22 virtual appointments with their ideal clients.
Jeff? My name's Jeff Kroll. I'm an international business coach, trainer, and speaker. I have a best-selling book as well. And what I do is I'm a professional coach for financial advisors, helping them build their ideal business so that they can spend all their free time living their ideal life.
Awesome. Thank you both. And the first thing I want to cover is, limiting beliefs around sales, right? So a big one is sucking at sales, right? The fact that no one really, you go in the industry and there's that saying or that feeling that, no one really has ever taught me to do the sales the right way, right? So therefore, I feel like some of our clients who are financial insurance advisors, they feel like they hate sales, right? They hate doing it. So therefore, there's that limiting belief that starts kind of forming as a snowball. Hey, I never was taught sales the right way. I didn't have the resources to actually learn the right way. So I'm just kind of fumbling, trial and error. And so therefore, I should hate sales. And then when it comes to sale, you start doubting yourself. Yeah, I suck at sales, right? I hate it. No one really taught me how to do it. I don't really know how to go about it. So, I suck at sales, right? And then it goes to, since I suck at sales, why should I even spend time prospecting and growing my book of business? Hey, I should just, sit back and, rely on the old ways of, just whenever business will come, however it will come. And just growth is stunted at this point, right? So there's that deep ingrained limiting belief from, I think a lot of the clients that I'm coaching that I feel is a big one. And so, Jeff, what are your thoughts on that, based on a lot of the financial advisors that you've coached throughout the years?
I think a lot of them have a belief that they don't know what to do and how to do it, but they don't want to actually, describe that. They don't want to tell that because they didn't get the professional training, like you said, a lot of times they jump into the industry and they're given something to do, but they don't actually get the right training for it. Because in the industry, I found that most of the time, organizations are just playing the numbers game, right? They're seeing who can actually survive. And so they're not really giving the proper training. They're saying, well, here's some steps, here's some tools, go at it. And they're just looking to see who actually survives, like who can actually do that, right? And so the belief that ends up showing up that's there typically for advisors is they don't believe that they can do this, like they could be an advisor. And as they get to be a senior advisor, then they have the belief that they don't believe that they can work with higher net worth clients, or they don't believe that they can have the ability to grow the business the way they want it. Mm-hmm. So I think that's some of the things that show up right away.
Yeah, Ramsey?
Yeah, that's interesting. I'll really relate that to my experience because, Bilal, what you just mentioned, you keep on referring to the right way. Well, for me, and just for most financial service professionals, it's just the way, right? So there's no wrong or right way. And what I mean by that way, I'm talking about the mold here, the mold that has shaped our industry, right? Hey, you got to go to networking events. You got to be involved in every single community event. You got to ask for referrals. And it's not really about the right way. It's more about the way to do business. For me, listen, I've been in sales for over 30 years and I consider myself pretty good at sales, right? And even though I had the sales skills required, for me, the way that I had to use to grow my practice back then, it was the traditional methods, right? And the biggest flaw around that is that, listen, I'm great at sales, but my process was still unpredictable. What I found is that I always had that unpredictability. yes, I was relying on referrals. I mean, many of us still do, and that's one of the main bread and butter of most practices out there. But that's a good point. When you're talking about the right way, it's like most advisors, they come into the industry and they're being taught the old mold to grow a financial service practice without actually looking outside of the box. Times have changed, right? I mean, I don't even need to kind of mention that here. We're in a completely different environment, and you absolutely need to adapt. And thankfully enough, there's actually more predictable ways right now to actually have a sales process in place, right? You don't need anymore 10 years, 15 years to build a successful financial practice. Right now, things can actually speed up with the right processes in place. So yeah, definitely when you mention the right way, it's like, just want to put things in perspectives. There's the old way of doing business, the old traditionally advisory model, but there's definitely a more predictable, a more refined, we kind of refer to it as the virtual advisor, right? So yeah, great point.
Yeah. And I feel like I think that's it. Is just, and especially what happens is when like sales is so feared from tackling, when you have that limiting belief, then you prioritize other things like client servicing, whether it be client servicing or on the back end with the office, the team members and hiring. But there's, I think we can both agree here that, the blood of a business is sales, is like money coming in, right? And so what ends up happening is, you put sales on the back burner, everything else suffers, right? I hear this often is like, I don't have any sales goals. Yeah, it's, whatever, I've grown like I've always grown and whatever, right? Yeah, no, I don't like to be pushy. I don't like to be too persistent. They'll come to me. Well, we can both agree that's definitely not, ideal in an ideal world, and where, growth, I feel like financial advisors, for their clients, they want growth, right? So in the end, we really want to push that. Like, how do we go from a fearful mindset towards a more empowered mindset of, wow, I'm excited to prospect. I'm excited to bring on board, inspire more clients to join, right? And I feel, I guess a solution to like that limiting belief could be, hey, well, let me systematize my sales processes, right? Let me systemize the process. And Jeff, what do you think could be like another empowering belief to have around sales?
What I think about that is too, because it kind of goes back to what Ramsey said too as well, is there's so many different ways nowadays, because the limiting belief is I can't find clients, I can't build my business, right? And there's so many different ways out there that most of the time advisors are distracted. I call it shiny object syndrome is the thing that stops them. And because they're like, oh, I should do this, I should do Facebook, I should do, referral base, I should, do mailers, I should do seminars, I should do LinkedIn, right? They're just so distracted with so many different things. And like Ramsey said, there's so many different ways to build the business right now, and more than ever before. So now it's like, they think that that's the problem, right? But really what the real problem there is clarity and commitment. So they don't actually, pick the right method that's in alignment to their personality and to, what they would enjoy doing, and they don't commit to it. So they start it, maybe like they may start the process, but they don't actually commit to it because they get distracted by something else and get distracted by something else.
So you're saying, Jeff, one way to solve that is to focus on one thing and putting all your energy on one thing that's predictable, one thing that is generating you revenue first and foremost, rather than having a multiple ways of generating business.
Yeah, I teach my clients that they shouldn't move on to another thing until that one thing is consistently generating results. And more importantly, if they can actually delegate it out or automate it in a way where their time is the least amount of time doing it. And so before they move on to another thing, right? Because there's so many things. Oh, well, maybe you ought to do this. You hear it at a conference, or you hear it at one of your team meetings, and someone goes, oh man, I'm having such great deal with this. you should do this. And then they're like, oh yeah, maybe I should do that. And next thing you know, they're off track again, and they've never actually developed a habit of consistency for that one thing. And that's what high performers do. If you look at high performers around the world, that's what they do.
Yeah.
They laser in on one thing,
Yeah.
and then they just master that, right?
Absolutely.
They don't let anything else distract them.
Yeah, let me extend on that. It's like, yeah, many of our mentors, one thing that we share in common is like, one thing I've heard often is like, yeah, keeping the main thing. But it's super important that you mentioned also, Jeff, there's plenty of options out there, right? And unfortunately, one of the main hurdles I'm seeing on our calls whenever we're trying to help our prospects, right, become our clients, is like they've had a negative experience in the past trying a sales strategy or a sales process and then giving up, right? And the reason I kind of bring this up, and we actually teach that to our clients right now, how we're keeping just one thing consistent. Like in our program, like, no, we're not doing a million things. We're choosing one mail sales strategy, we're creating processes around it, and then we're automating it. But we're only using one channel, right? And we're not using anything else. And that comes down to, hey, we all have limited resources, limited time. And yes, there are a million things you can do out there. So I guess to kind of wrap this short topic up, number one, if you're going to pick something that actually works, right? Our clients choose to work with us because they don't want to break their head. They want a sales process that's proven, can actually guarantee results, right? We've done the trial and error, so you guys don't have to go through it. And number two, once you actually pick something, keep that thing the main thing, right? So obviously there's going to be tons of other shiny objects. Hey, mailers, hey, events, hey, seminars, hey, this. But there's nothing beats keeping one thing the main thing and doubling down your efforts on that one main strategy that's actually working.
Yep. And to extend on that as well, thank you, Ramsey. Thank you, Jeff. More importantly, Jeff, you just alluded to one important topic is the fact that there's that limiting belief on growing the book of business. So I guess two examples here from advisors that I know. I'll give the first name. Let's say Stacy, right? It's not really Stacy, but Stacy. She's a advisor for over 8 years, and she grew her book of business, through the old ways of prospecting and everything. But more importantly, she's always worked with, women, right? Women and, I guess less than ideal clients, right? Less affluent members of society, right? So people who generate less income for her practice, right? And there is this limiting belief, for example, for her is, I'm a woman. I've always worked with women. Women are generally like less resistance because, women to women, there's that different kind of interaction. And then she said, and right off the back, quote word for word is, I don't deserve working with higher affluent individuals in society. And typically those are men. And for everyone watching, all right, sorry, I didn't offend anyone, but that's just the facts. So men being more affluent, I don't deserve male clients. I don't deserve to make more money because I've always had success doing what I always, my comfort zone of working with women. Another one here is, let's say TJ, right? Another client, junior advisor. TJ, 1 year in the industry, always had 9-to-5 jobs, whether it be like Starbucks, whatever, just simpleton jobs. And then, graduates, becomes a financial advisor, gets the licenses, all of that. And then looks at the juggernauts at his firm or at his bank, and he sees advisors and planners that have spent 10 years in the industry to build their book, right? 10 years, 20 years. And there's that fear of, well, damn, am I look at who I am right now. I'm nothing. How am I how am I supposed to attract clients that are worth my time? And how am I supposed to even grow my business from now on? Look at those juggernauts, right? So there's that limiting belief, imposter syndrome, as they like to call it. Am I even supposed to be there? And so that there's a lot of those as well. That imposter syndrome, I feel like it applies to both of these examples that I just gave. And I guess we can talk about that as well. That's a huge one, I think, from of my conversation with some of my clients.
I think that's really big. Just the two examples you gave me, you could hear all the limiting beliefs that are there.
Yeah.
By you just describing it, you can hear what's stopping them, that they're saying is stopping them, when reality, that's not what's really stopping them. So just from a scientific proof or how scientific psychology works. Basic psychology is there's a belief, all right? And that belief creates thoughts that you say to yourself and you say to others, right? And those thoughts that you say to yourself and to others create an emotional feeling that's there for you in that moment. And when you have those beliefs, those thoughts, those feelings, it actually dictates how you take the action, right? It dictates the actions you choose, right? When you were describing that limiting belief, the woman that, would prefer talking to women versus men, right? Is a belief that she has from the past, all right? That has created those emotional feelings that actually dictate her actions when she's around men, so that it automatically chooses a negative result. So she would prefer to work with more females, right? And so it's just a constant trait. Now, here's the funny part, is those results that you get from those actions, most of the time, as human beings, not just financial advisors, but as human beings, right? What we end up doing is thinking, oh, that action didn't work, so I should probably do a different action. And then you try that and it still doesn't work. And then you do a different action and it still doesn't work. And the main thing is because you didn't get to the core, which is the belief. You didn't spend the time shifting the belief. Because once you shift the belief, then you could go back and do all the same actions you did before that didn't work with a different belief, and you'd be surprised how results show up, right? And as advisors, bouncing from one thing to the next thing, or feeling they have to do something over something else, most of the time that's dictated by a limiting belief that they created based off their past experience, whether it's when they're new in the industry, or whether it was in a different industry or a different career, whether it's observing their father, observing their mother, whether it's been around, the people in their community, in their life, all of it dictates how they do that. And if you're not conscious of that, you're just going to fulfill on this unconsciously over and over and over. So you're either in control or you're not. So
that's super powerful. And yeah, I mean, limiting beliefs is huge, right? And like the way I see it, it's like we work primarily, if I could kind of break it down into two different kind of groups that we work with. They're like more people getting started, trying to build their practice. And then there's more people who are a little bit more senior. But let's tackle the first group here, right? Going to your example here, to your Suzanne, having only woman clients. I think it really comes down to her sales process. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. Suzanne's sales process is primarily referral based, right? So she has woman clients. Therefore, the only new clients she actually gets to see are more women, right? Because word of mouth and referrals. So it goes down to the sales process. And because she doesn't have another sales process that can get her in front of other prospects, she has a limiting belief that, hey, I only can and need to work with women because that's the process that I have, right?
yeah.
And I think the sales process is the root creation behind that limiting belief. Going back to your point, hey, I'm seeing all these juggernauts at my firm. John here, 15 years in the business, has a very stable book of business. Well, how do I get to John's point? And as a new advisor, you look at those juggernauts and you're like, okay, what sales process did they use, right? And guess what? Same things 200-300 years ago that's being taught. Referrals, right? Cold calling, all that stuff. And what worked 200-300 years ago, I mean, yeah, it worked a lot more efficiently. Cold calling was a lot more efficient back then. Even just the regular credibility that financial advisors carry around that title used to have a lot more weight back then. So it's like, they look at the juggernauts, they're like, okay, let me mimic what this guy did in order to get to his spot. And then they go into the field, they try to replicate what they've done a couple of decades ago, and they're seeing the inefficiency there. So guess what happens? Limiting belief gets created. There's no way I'm going to be able to become a juggernaut like John, right? And what does that come down to again? Sales process. I think the sales process is the root creation behind limiting beliefs. It can make Suzanne think that, hey, I only need to work with women. it can make any junior advisor think, hey, there's no way I'm going to become a juggernaut and spend 10, 15 years. Heck, I just spent, I don't know, a couple of months doing exactly what John told me to do, and yet I'm yielding no results. There's no way I'm going to make it. Limiting belief there. But even the seasoned advisors who even have a seasoned book of business, right? The ones who are stable, the ones who had the luxury to have a successful practice, even these guys, they have growth goals, right? I mean, every single person that we speak to and all our clients, regardless of where you are at the scale, you always want to grow more. And these guys, their limiting beliefs is like, hey, well, okay, I want to double my practice. I want to double my practice's revenue, but I don't want to double the number of households that I'm actually working with, right? That's one of the main things we actually help our clients with, right? How to work with more clients, have more revenue, fewer clients, and more free time, right? Huge thing. And it comes down to the limiting belief, is because their sales process, they've used for the last 10, 15 years, primarily referrals. And if they look at their referrals, they know the only reason they can't have a forecast, the unpredictability. So I think the sales process, I think, is the root cause of limiting beliefs in sales.
Yeah, and I think your guys' methodology is amazing because it doesn't require as much time, right? Like you look at all the different newer methodologies that are out there, the thing that technology that you guys are using, for example, requires a limited amount of time to get in front of ideal clients. And, that's the thing that clients need to understand is it's not like, which limit, let your limiting belief dictate your methodology. It's more about let your lifestyle dictate it. So if I want a lifestyle with more time, then I have to have some sort of lead generation process that doesn't suck up my time.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want to have a lead generation process that I constantly have to be there. I constantly have to make phone calls. I constantly have
drive
to
30 minutes to an hour.
go out to events and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I really need to have a methodology that takes the least amount of my time. And, you guys know this with working with your clients. It's just, that's the cool part about your process is it's very little time and you get in front of ideal clients.
Yeah. Speaking about little time or a lot of time being used as well as another, I guess that's the final one we can talk about today, is the fact that, so this is more on the client servicing side, not really sales. It's the fact that there's that limiting belief that you always have to be ready, on hand, on call for your clients, or else you lose everything, right? You lose the dog, you lose the wife, the husband, you lose the car, you lose everything, right? So if I don't pick up that one phone call at 6 a.m. in the morning while I'm asleep, or if I don't get back to a text 5 minutes after I got the text, my house will blow up, right? So, I think a big one is, because again, another example from an advisor that I know, Martin, great guy. He's been in the industry for 10 years, financial planner. And, for him, it's really like, I would be on a call with Martin, and, hey, just give me 1 second. I got to reply to that one text, right? Oh yeah, that's a client of mine that super frustrating to work with, but whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, wait, hold a second. Like, how come are you even working with clients like that? And then, no, he's a good client. He's a good client. It's just like frustrating a bit. Okay, well, if he's a good client, like, where does that come from? And then, if after a couple back and forth with Martin, what we kind of uncovered is, this is how the relationship started, and that's how the relationship is continually going, where there's those expectations set from the actually lack of expectations set from the get-go, it being that I'm available at all times for you. Like, it's so tempting to say, because I guess everyone in the industry says it, because I hear it all the time, is I'm available for my clients all the time. Like I'll be the best advisor because I'm always at reach. Right. But, that creates a lot of problems, that creates frustrations, that creates frustration from both the advisor, him or herself, and the client. And more importantly, it actually creates less results for the clients because you're being distracted. So think of it this way: if you're actually working on servicing your clients the right way and you get a phone call and a text, that's like I mean, from a lot of the books that I read, that's a dip of productivity of almost like 70%, if not 90%, like just taking a phone call or, you know, so that's a huge one as well. I think is just being available at all times, that limiting belief that if I'm not available at all times, I'm losing my clients. And, you know, what are your thoughts on that? Ramsey, former financial planner here. Ramsey, like, tell me, like, how did
Yeah.
you feel with your clients? And, you know,
Well, back then I'm a subject to that, but I'll tell you why I did that, and it's because I kind of I replicated another successful advisor's basically habits, right? But I'll tell you something. I mean, I also see that not only even on my sales calls sometimes, right? People just get calls, get emails, and I'll tell you something. I think it comes down to an advisor thinking that, hey, my competitive advantage is me giving my entire time to my prospects, but why, right? So why are they trying to get in competitive advantage? It's more around client retention. So what you just mentioned right now is like, hey, if I'm not always there for my client, then my client will kind of go somewhere else, right? So they feel like, hey, time is actually a competitive advantage over other advisors out there, and more importantly, how I want to retain my clients. And I think that's the biggest mistake not only a financial service professional can do, but any entrepreneur can do, right? Time is super scarce. I'll give you an example. I mean, look at the generalist doctor and look at a specialist. I mean, let's use as a surgeon, for example. You think you can call your surgeon and he'll answer whenever? Absolutely not. You think you can email him and you'll expect an email back within a few minutes? Absolutely not. You're lucky if you get a call back within 20 to 48 hours, but yet you have a lot of respect towards your surgeon. You trust your surgeon, and absolutely you don't really mind how long it takes to get back. But it all has to do with expectations. I know a surgeon is super busy. I know I'm not going to expect a call back, but yet I'm super happy because this is my expectation set from the get-go. So I guess to kind of wrap this up, though, I think it's a huge, you're shooting yourself in the foot by using your time as a competitive advantage, because what you're truly trying to win here, you're trying to win relational clients, right? And you don't win them by giving your entire time to them. In fact, they will respect you more that you have actually less time because they see you're busy. But again, in line, I think the competitive advantage here for client retention is setting expectations, letting them know that, hey, your time is limited, letting them know exactly when you can actually get back to them and when not to get back to them.
so we go back to processes. Yeah, processes.
Yeah, go back to processes. I mean, that's the reason why I lock off my phone during my work hours. That's the reason why I have a 15-minute block in the morning where I check my emails and a 15-minute block at night to check my emails to reply to customers, is because I want to stay in flow. When I work, I don't want to have distractions. And yeah, it comes down to expectations and just having processes around it. What's your thoughts on that, Jeff?
Well, I think you hit it on the nose with the belief that's there, the experience like for the advisor, which is burnout. You know, they're burned out. In likelihood, it's like what happened to you, Ramsey, is they're burned out because they're following other people in their broker dealer, their whatever, their brokerage, and trying to figure out like, how did that person do it? But then they realize after doing all of that, it's like, this is not what I want. I don't want that burnout feeling. I don't want to work, those 60 hours a week. I don't want to be always ready. And then they go on that journey again. Well, what else can I do? What else can I do? Right. And they start to veer off with all of that. And more of that burnout just leaves them frustrated. It leaves uncertainty. It leaves them confused. Even though they're a senior advisor, even though they're already successful, they still have this emotional feeling that's attached to a limiting belief. And until that's dealt with, they're constantly going to be in that loop, that
absolutely.
Loop that's there. And that's the biggest problem I see that shows up. Now, it does lead back to eventually some sort of expectation, right? I think it even starts even before that, where it's really like, what is the business model that I'm going to use to have the lifestyle that I want? And inside that business model, what is the actual value proposition? And how does that look like from a time perspective? So that, more importantly, my lifestyle isn't affected.
Absolutely.
Because I don't want to have my lifestyle affected. I want to start there and then work backwards of what that model needs to look like in order to do it. And then once I have that value proposition, absolutely, without clarity of the value proposition, the business model, and the expectations the client should have in regards to you and what you deliver, then there's only going to be a mess that creates more frustration, more upsets, more
yeah.
confusion, and more of that kind of negative belief that keeps them in the loop that they're in.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Just to wrap this up, so three solutions here for those limiting beliefs. We're talking number one, I guess, to be honest, the first one is being aware of them, right? We can all agree here, just being aware of those limiting beliefs. Just stopping for a moment, kind of scouring everything, scouring how you feel about sales, how you feel about your clients, how you feel about your lifestyle, and whether or not it concords with the way you're conducting yourself, and just being aware of them, which is the first step. And then the second one is what? Processes, sales processes, client servicing processes, setting expectations. So just processes. And the third one, mentioned by Jeff earlier, is doing, sticking to one damn thing that drives results, and that's it. Right? Pardon my French. One thing that drives results, and repeat that until it's systemized and outsourceable. Is that what I'm hearing, gentlemen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last one to all of that, which I think is always a kicker that most people don't do, is get accountability. If you don't have the accountability of that, eventually you're going to go back to your limiting belief.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Yeah, thanks, gentlemen. And Jeff, where can people reach you? So you coach professionals, financial advisors, insurance agents as well, one-on-one group coaching as well. Where can people reach you?
They can reach me at hpxcall.com, or just go to my website, jeffkrall.com, like you see here on the screen.
Awesome. And for us, Ramsey, where can people reach us? So financial, insurance, and lending advisors, where can people reach us if they want help with processes and stuff like that, and mindset?
Absolutely.
Sales mindset.
Yeah, luxsalesconsulting.com, Lux, Lux. And yeah, absolutely. Book a discovery call, meet one of our growth consultants. We'll schedule you for a 15-20-minute call. Just make sure it's a good fit. The SLS framework is a good fit within your current business development structure. And we'll tell you a little bit better about how our sales process can actually give you that predictability.
Awesome. All right, gentlemen. Thank you for lending us your Saturdays.
Great. Appreciate it. Cheers.